You know,
You're always finding animals in the trash.
Yeah.
I like
What are you doing in the trash, Bridget?
I love trash.
She does love trash. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back.
Didn't
We
see you
haven't been
there.
recording for 45 minutes or
No,
anything.
no, we haven't.
Theme is things.
Thanks.
Things.
We ended up
We talked
talking
about
about like acquiring a dog and how to make sure you're hopefully getting a dog from a good place, whether it's rescuing or purchasing from a breeder, and how to vet those things and make sure that.
Discussion about acquiring your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how you acquired your dog
Yeah.
in the comments. You know, how'd they come
In
into
your
your life?
experience.
Because we always love to hear a good story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, my dog was found in a dumpster, and I call him Trash Puppy, and that's my claim to fame. I say, my dog was found in the trash.
Yep.
Love sharing that story.
Didn't you find my cat in the trash too?
Yes, I did. I found your cat in the trash. You know,
You're always finding animals in the trash.
Yeah.
I
What
like
are you
to
doing in the
be-
trash, Bridget?
I love trash.
She does love trash. You're always like picking up random things and
Yes.
keeping them. Remember that one?
diver for a little.
I was gonna say, remember that one bag that you got and then had gum all over it?
You're like on the phone, and you're like, and I just like, I don't know whose gum it was, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a dangerous game you're playing with that.
Yes. You know,
Well.
I got an air fryer once out of the trash, and I still have her, and she
Nice.
works beautifully. She had a broken basket, and I called up the company. I said, hi, I got this for my wedding. Can you send me a replacement? And they were like, okay. And they sent me a replacement, and now I have a Ninja air fryer that I use on a daily basis.
That's
So,
amazing.
Trash is your friend.
Meanwhile, there's like a dead mouse in one of the like compartments that's just frying
You can
into your
always
food the whole time.
sanitize.
Yeah.
Always wash it.
No, I mean reduce, reuse, recycle, right? That's what they
Yes.
say.
Reduce, reuse, rekiki.
What?
Have you seen that video?
Never see that either.
Reduce, reuse. It's like the stickers have peeled off, and recycle is rekiki.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and if anybody has
No.
any advice
Look it
for a twitching eyelid, my eyelid's been twitching on and off
Oh,
for
I
like
have-
2 weeks straight.
Sometimes it can be a vitamin deficiency, or it's caffeine.
I've been eating, it might be caffeine. I do drink a lot of caffeine.
Yes.
I have been eating
It's so
potassium.
uncomfortable.
Oh, it's so obnoxious. I've been eating a lot of bananas because doesn't potassium help with like twitchy muscles
Yeah.
or something?
Cramps. I
It's
think.
Or with
not
like
working.
a client, and you can feel it twitching, and you're like, do I look like this right now?
Yeah, it's terrible.
And you're like, I promise I'm sane.
And like the eyelid, why is it always the eyelid?
Yeah.
I don't know.
that happened to me for a while.
But I do drink a lot of coffee, so
Yeah.
that's probably it.
I'm down to 1 cold brew a day now.
Doesn't cold brew have a lot of caffeine in it?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Caffeine, the source of life.
Mm-hmm.
Scares me.
Oh, I can show you guys a video I saw on TikTok.
Okay.
Oh, this is bogus. So the video, I think I sent it to you. The one where I said, God, I hate rescue people. Did you watch that?
Oh, I see.
But now the person set it to, they privated their account, so you can't see it unless you're friends with them. Man. It was the woman that they adopted a dog. I know, I'm so mad. I wish I would have screen recorded it. But the woman, it was Ring camera footage from like this family adopted a dog, and the dog attacked their like 17-year-old son unprovoked, bit him like 3 or 4 times because I guess the dog was like in the living room, and the kid walked in the living room and he tripped and he like hit the crate. And the dog wasn't even near it, but like just that like whole noise and thing or whatever, the dog like charged across the room and attacked him. And so they returned the dog to the shelter, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And the woman that came from the shelter to pick the dog up was like a out of this world bitch to them. Like, so unempathetic. Like, the woman is bawling because she feels terrible. Her son just got mauled. Like, her her son just got mauled, and then they have to return the dog, and they know that when they return the dog, it's probably going to end up getting euthanized. You know, like, they just feel terrible about it. And this woman shows up, and the woman's crying, and she goes, this should have happened before. And the woman was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, the crying and all this stuff. Like, and I'm not exaggerating. This is exactly what happened. She's like, this should have happened before you guys did the stupid thing. And then all of a sudden you have to give up on the dog.
What
And the woman was like
fuck?
flabbergasted.
Yeah.
She's like, are you kidding me right now? And then the volunteer opens the door to their own house, lets herself in, grabs the dog, walks it out, says nothing else. And she goes, that dog literally just attacked my son.
Right.
And she goes, yeah, you know how many dogs that I've been bit by, but I don't give them back and give up on them so that then they have to get euthanized.
Oh my gosh.
It was like the most heinous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, but then what
Definitely
happened,
is.
the rescue, because this was like a volunteer, like foster person or whatever, the rescue shot themselves in a fucking foot and clearly showed their own ass with how they treat their employees or how they hire people or whatever, their volunteers, because they released a statement saying that, yes, they agree that, you know, it was unempathetic and that she wasn't being compassionate or whatever, and that they parted ways with that volunteer, but then went on and wrote this whole fucking paragraph about compassion fatigue. And that
Oh
when
my
you work in
God.
rescue, you just never get a break. So sometimes you get frustrated, and tried to justify the whole situation. And I was like, you guys suck. Like, you absolutely suck. And then went on to say, I will never understand why these people felt that it was appropriate to post that video online and send a barrage of hate to us and the volunteer and this and that. And I'm like, this is exactly why.
Right.
Because you
the
guys don't
volunteer
think what
proved
just
it.
happened is wrong. And also, like, how many people has that dog bit before that you didn't tell them about?
Right.
If it mauled a kid, bit him 3 times, not a one bite and
for
done, like
basically no
multiple
reason.
bites
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, it
For
was
just getting
insane.
startled,
Yeah, from just
basically.
getting startled.
Yeah.
It was
Do you know
insane.
how long they had the dog before?
Well, they'd had it long enough to invest thousands of dollars into training.
Yeah.
They'd tried to be working with the dog. They put all of this effort and time into it, and then that still happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can't keep this dog. Like, it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Like, I was, because when she was like, the rescue leader was like screaming at them, the woman goes, do you know how much effort we've put into this dog?
Right.
And how much money we've spent to try to make this work? And the woman was just like a massive bitch. It was so frustrating to see that. I was like,
I don't know what I would do in that situation.
It was
I
crazy.
would,
Start swinging. And
oh yeah, I was
I
like,
would want to, but
I think
the audacity.
we could talk about like
yeah.
that being one of the topics, like finding the right fit, with. I know we've talked about like pet care and
Yeah.
like
Or like red flags of places that you could adopt from.
red
like
flags,
how to find like a good shelter.
red flags in the pet industry. So you could talk about like boarding places,
Yeah.
training places, pet care, not hire a freaking rover sitter and
Yeah.
be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Even like I've had clients be like, they'll take their dogs to daycares or something like that, and the dog will come home with like a puncture, like nothing severe, like very well could have just been play. You know what I mean? Like rough play, but like a puncture or a gash or something like that, and like no one says anything about it or addresses or lets them know. And it's like, I get that stuff isn't a big deal, but it becomes a bigger deal when you don't tell people.
Right.
Because did you not know it happened, which is concerning.
Yeah.
That you weren't watching or inspecting the dogs to see that stuff. But then beyond that, like, did you know it happened and didn't go out of your way to like tell people?
Mm-hmm.
That to me would be like a red flag.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, I get that stuff happens. Dogs are dogs. They're going to injure themselves, you know. But ideally, you know, people are catching it and letting the owners know if they can.
Yeah, because if you're not going to be honest about like the small stuff, then what are you really hiding, you know, when something really goes wrong? Yeah. I mean, I have no experience with like the rover sitters or anything like that, but
I used to be one.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Rover and wag for a couple months.
Yeah.
Or longer than that. And I did both. I had dogs stay at my house, and I went to other people's houses. And I found like one or two really good clients out of it, but for the most part, people are being psychos.
Yeah.
It's just a sense of like they're over like the care that they want provided, or
no, like people that use rover or wag, like I could argue that don't really care about their dogs because I'm so picky about who I would ever let into my house and watch my dogs. Like I'm never hiring some teenage girl that's home for the summer from college to like, and that's what it is.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, what do you have when you were? So you specifically did work with Rover?
Yes.
What did you even have to do to like be hired through them?
I took a PowerPoint training class, and it was like a PowerPoint, and then it was like a test at the end, and the test questions were like what a harness was, what a collar was, what a leash was, what a halty was, and you could go an extra step and get verified, but you didn't really need to.
Oh dear.
My gosh.
And it was just like a joke. Like I walked dogs around here for a while on WAG, and you just go in and like you'd have notes and be like, dog's super aggressive from other sitters or super reactive, and there'd be nothing in the owner's notes, and you'd be like, sweet.
Yeah.
So you never know what you're really getting into.
Oh, like past walkers or something
so
would leave notes for you.
Client side, and then walker to walker, you can see notes from other people.
Do the clients see the notes that the walkers leave?
No.
I mean, that's kind of cool at least.
Yeah, that is.
Then you
That
can
is, 'cause then you can
warn
be
other
honest.
people.
Yeah.
Just like that, we talked about this before, but that Tara's World girl.
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I just a fun little hobby. I'm gonna go on Rover. And she was like, the dog pulled me down the street and dragged me, and her legs were all torn up, and she was like making light of it and being like jokey about it. I'm like, who hired you?
Yeah, nobody, nor the owners that use those services, nor the people that sign up to perform the services, like none of them have any dog knowledge. I feel like it's just like the blind leading the blind in those scenarios.
I could argue to say like I try not to give my opinion of what people do with their dogs, like my clients, but I'm like, please don't get WAG or Rover.
Yes.
I feel like
something
it's one of those things where it's like it's so convenient, so like it's easy to do, but like in the grand scheme of things, if you actually care about your dog,
it's not
then
great.
It's not beneficial at all.
Because if you sign up for one of those sites to have somebody come walk your dog, can you pick who does it, or is it literally just like you say, I want someone to walk my dog at noon, and anyone can show up?
Both. So anybody can show up. So it's like Uber, and you can kind of pick your jobs, and then they'll send you their profile. But if it's like overnight care, you can pick who you see, and some people require like a meet and greet prior. I've never used their services for my dogs. I've never done that, but on the client side of things, like you would see their reviews and their stars. And back when I was in college, a young child in college, I pet sat this dog, two dogs in particular that ruined my freaking life. One was a pit bull puppy that never stopped moving, and I woke up and I was like, I don't know why I didn't put this dog in the crate. I was stupid. It completely tore apart my room, and like tore apart. There was my.
Oh, it was the same with you.
Yes, my floor was all torn up with like she shredded books and.
Did you just sleep through this?
Yes. And then like, what was I thinking? And then like I had this dog around Nelson, and
oh my gosh,
this is fine. And it was like a pit bull puppy that literally never stopped moving.
Yeah.
And then I had another one, and I was walking it on a retractable leash. It was super reactive. It backed out of their harness.
Oh my gosh.
And ran away. And I had to go chase this dog through the neighborhood, chase it down. And I remember like being like, fuck. Like, I am so fucked. If this dog, I got it back. Its name was Archie. So Archie, if you're out there.
Did you ever tell them?
No.
They know now.
No.
Yep.
So that, and then I did a pet sitting job, and the lady got a package. So I promise that I'm very competent now.
Well, this is how we all learn. We do stupid shit like this.
Yeah.
I used to take my dog to like cash like bars and shit,
Yes.
and he would literally wander around the bar,
Yep.
like off leash.
I was like,
and like everyone was like, "Whose dog is this?" I'm like, "That's mine." Like he would just hang.
Like I was like 19, maybe 20, 21
Yeah,
when I was doing these jobs. So I was very immature and stupid, and I shouldn't have been in that position. But I had one thing that wasn't my fault was we had a box, and I brought the box in. She got a package delivered, and the dogs weren't crated. And in the box was a collection of like 100 chocolates, and the dog got into the box and ate every single last chocolate. And I walked into their house. It smelled like the fucking Hershey's factory. Chocolate vomit.
gosh.
There's chocolate poop everywhere. Her white carpet completely brown. And I remember like crying and scrubbing the poop out, and then having to call her and be like, your dog ate a massive amount of chocolate. And she was like, why would you put the box on the floor? And I was like, what the hell was I supposed to do?
Yeah,
I know you ordered 1,000 assorted chocolates.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
And that was such a nightmare. And I got the carpet cleaned up. I sparkled that carpet. Did such a good job.
You could lick it.
And then she hired me again. So.
Oh, nice.
Well, there you go.
Well,
See, honestly, so 2 takeaways from this. One, like you said, you're very competent now, but you were very silly back then. And that just goes to show that anyone can be hired to work for those places. Like you clearly, no offense, were unqualified to be doing those things, just as we all would have been at 19 and being stupid with no prefrontal cortex developed. And then, but
still waiting on mine.
What is it? Is it men 25 that they finally
That's what
get
they
theirs?
say, yeah.
How old are you?
I'll be 29 in July.
20. Oh, you should have it,
Yeah.
Seamus.
Should.
At this point. You should. But the other takeaway that you just said that kind of ties back to what we talked about earlier of being honest with clients is that like you didn't try to hide what happened. You were honest with her. You like tried to make it right by cleaning everything. And then she hired you again.
Yeah.
Because she probably felt like you were trustworthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you were at least an honest person that she felt like she could trust.
Stepping back into the board and train program within the last year, I've just realized like something that I do that we did back then. Like we never hid anything. I was never lying about anything. But if the dog gets the tiniest little scratch, I'm calling the owner up and I'm like, hey, your dog has a scratch. And they're like, why are you calling me about a scratch?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if it develops into something bigger, I want you to know the immediate something happens. Or if they're having diarrhea or vomiting, I need to call them immediately and get them on board. And that's how you can avoid a lot of issues if you have dogs in your care, is that you need to keep the owner involved in everything.
Yeah.
And one the reasons I love the pet sitter that I have now is that the smallest thing I know she's going to let me know. And anything like from sneezing to coughing, and it makes me think like she's being super detailed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because like all you need is like you're like, oh, it's just a little scratch, no big deal. But then all of a sudden it ends up looking suspicious and maybe it's infected and now we have to do a vet visit. And if you call the owners, they're like, okay, well, when did this happen?
Yeah.
And now you have to go to the vet and then now it's a much bigger deal.
And again, prior when I first started in the board and train program, some things were missed, like with doodles specifically. Sometimes there was a hot spot in one particular case and the dog went home and the hot spot was missed and the owner flipped her lid, which she should have. You know, you shouldn't have a hot spot that you just recognize. And we handled it and we got, we did what we needed to do for that. But even the little tiniest things, you have to tell the owner.
Yeah,
you have.
They
to
can
keep
snowball, especially the hot spots. They can snowball so fast into something way worse.
Or the lick spots, when dogs get the lick spots on the inside of their paws, those can get infected and travel up the arm. So it's really essential that if your dog's in your care boarding, that you're notating everything and doing some form of health check every couple of days. So you're getting their full scope of what's wrong with them, maybe their weight if you have a scale. So we're just keeping on track of things.
And like you mentioned, no one's ever going to be perfect. I'm sure there's things that we miss or, stuff like that. But if you make a conscious effort to try to be on top of those things, a lot of times, from a business perspective too, if you have clients where maybe you did miss something or, whatever, they're going to be a lot more understanding of it if there's been a long history of them knowing you've been attentive. And maybe it was just one little missed thing, at that point. So
I think going back to you have to be really selective who you're going to choose to have your pet care, and you should not be willy-nilly. I had a dog that I trained that they picked up their dog, and she thought the dog was drugged, and the dog was not acting like itself. It was very drowsy and lethargic, and she can't prove it, obviously. But you have to be super careful I would never drop any of my dogs off at somebody's house that I didn't know or meet. And then you have to be super careful of people coming in, because especially if you have a dog like a Cane Corso or some power breeds, you have to be really careful of stranger danger and hire experienced trainer.
Yeah.
And there's certainly dogs we get in here that can only come to us.
And just be on, for people that are signing up for boarding, or if they were to do the WAG thing or something, be honest. Be honest with your profile and everything, because the last thing you want is someone else getting bit because of your dog when it's a problem, right? It's a problem with feeding, resource guarding or something. Just be honest with it. Prevent it, so that I feel like so many people either downplay the severity of situations or just don't say it at all.
Yeah.
And it just leads to so many bigger problems.
And if you are going to do Rover and WAG, if I advise against it, I don't like those companies. I don't agree with how they run things. But if you're absolutely going to do it, schedule a meet and greet and meet this person before and talk about all of the issues and get a feel if they're competent. Look at their reviews, because you can review every individual. And I always look at experience too. And you should be very selective. And unfortunately, good pet care is going to cost you a pretty penny, and you have to factor that into your budget when you're going on vacations or something.
Yep.
And if you're going to try to cheap it out and get it as low as possible, you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, I don't know if you would know what it was when you worked there, but anything that still happens with your dog in their care, you're still going to be liable for.
Right.
So you're really taking a gamble. You know what I mean? That would be like me letting a random person take Lumos on a walk.
Yeah.
And being fingers crossed he doesn't bite anybody. And then I'm liable for whatever happens when I wasn't even there to control it or manage it. Right. So
but all you tell them before the walk is, he just pulls a little bit.
Yeah, he just pulls a little bit. That's fine.
I just could not imagine a world where I would ever trust an internet pet sitter without meeting them and doing, getting to know them. And Rover was bonded and insured, but if you look up and Google Rover accidents, you're never going to want to be on Rover again. There's many lawsuits against them, and there's so much sketchy stuff, and they cover it up.
Well, and I imagine when you sign up for it, there's so much fine print of that's literally covering their ass of hey, if your dog dies when our person's walking it or watching it, you have no legal standing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they can do that.
Oh, yeah.
So
that would be a nightmare. Or that one video you sent me. I feel like you always you'll always send me videos that I've seen and I could only manage to watch the first 15 seconds of before I'm I can't even it's either secondhand embarrassment watching it, or I get so annoyed, and then all of a sudden my inbox it's Bridget sent you this video. I'm Bridget, now I have to watch it because you sent it to me.
like I sent her this video the other day, and it was crocodile tears girl. I'm sure this experience was traumatic. Whatever. I want to be kind. I'm a kind person.
Well, I like watching that video. I was like, this girl, she's kind of, it's dumb. And then beyond that, like the owners are dumb. Again, you're pairing stupid people that'll hire someone with Rover with stupid people that work for Rover, and you just get with a Corso, and you just get a freaking nightmare.
Yeah. And like it was this girl, and the Corso ended up being aggressive, and there was no notes on that. And she went to the dog's house, and it was like, she went to go like take the dog out, and she was like, the owner didn't tell me that I can't let the dog out of the crate. How are you going to care for the dog if you can't let the dog out of the crate?
Right.
Yeah.
First
what was
question.
she supposed to do?
Yeah. And then if I go into somebody's house and I see a big ass dog, I'm not going to immediately go like, you want to smell my hair?
That you've never met before.
So the dog immediately barks in her face and attacks her, and like not bad, like
not actually. She didn't seem injured.
Yes.
Yeah.
She wasn't
honest,
injured.
she wasn't injured.
And
More just startled.
yes,
Probably.
Yes.
So she had to hide in a closet, and she magically found a tennis ball in the closet, and she went out and said, "Hey!" and she threw the tennis ball, and the dog chased the tennis ball, and she left the house. So.
Now the dog is loose in the house, though, not
Right.
even in the crate anymore.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
And she was sobbing.
Absolutely sobbing. And I'm sure it
Recounting
was
the
scary.
story.
But if you're that inexperienced, you should not be in the pet industry.
No.
On the Rover Wag thing, does it say what kind of dog you're going into too?
Yeah, you get like a profile, but the owners, like, we know that we have to take everything that owners say, love you guys, with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they
Embellish.
Yeah.
Yes.
You either embellish or you minimize
Yes. Yes.
certain details.
Yes. So you have to really kind of be able to navigate, like, if you are in the pet sitting industry, like having some kind of experience in safety protocols.
Yeah.
Going to houses alone.
And just trusting your gut. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
trust yourself.
of all the Corsos I've trained, you can think of a couple that I would maybe be willing, and these are fully trained Corsos, that I would maybe be willing to walk into the house unannounced without the owners there and expect to be safe.
Yes.
Right.
That's just not, no.
And you never want to
No.
put somebody else in the position where your dog could hurt them, and then you have to euthanize your dog because you were irresponsible and wanted to save money on like getting a cheap pet sitter, cheap care.
Yes.
Like, I promise you, in the pet industry, cheap is like, you're gonna get cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll get dangerous.
And have problems.
And poor outcomes. To me, I'm like, if I looked on those accounts for people that signed up for them for the dog side of it, and it's like any power breeds, automatic no. I would not be walking those dogs. I would not be caring for those dogs, because if you go out of your way to get like a very intense breed and then sign up for Rover, you didn't train your dog.
Yeah.
Or you didn't train it well.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't have the proper knowledge base of being a responsible owner of that breed. And in that case, I don't want anything to do with your dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that is
Or
going to
you.
be a massive, a massive liability on that part for
And
sure.
it's just like, I know not everybody is like a helicopter parent like I am, and that's fine. But you should care about your dog enough. Like, another story that I had was these 3 Malamute husky mixes, and they're huge dogs in their house. They only had me coming once a day, and they were gone on vacation, so I was only coming once, and those dogs were alone that whole other time. So morally, I felt so like attached to it that I went 3 times a day and only got paid for 1 time.
Yeah.
Because I could not fathom like thinking that those dogs would be like 12, 15 hours without a run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just all together
Especially
in the house.
that kind of dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can get into like compassion fatigue when you're in that industry and like really want to care for whether it's like shelter dogs or dogs that you're caring for in your house. And you can really want to go above and beyond, but like you have to have you have to be paid well. The owners have to be really honest with you. So honesty comes back, like we said, it's good to be transparent with your clients. I want you to be honest with me as well.
Yeah. And I think, like, I get the compassion fatigue thing. Like, I get it. I'm sure we've all experienced it at some point in our dog training journey. It's unavoidable. As I've, like, the longer I've been doing this, though, and the longer I've been involved, the more I've learned and realized that, like, you are solely responsible for having compassion fatigue, because you're allowing yourself to get burnout in all of the areas and putting your emotions into everything that you shouldn't. And that is your own fault. That is not anybody else's fault. So, like, when I read that, like, statement from that rescue trying to justify that behavior, no, that's not the owner's fault or people's fault that can't keep dogs to a certain degree, and that doesn't give you the right to behave that way because you just have compassion fatigue. No. What's been happening is you've been putting all of your compassion into shitty ass dogs that you probably should have put down anyways.
Right.
So then what happens is now you have no compassion left for the people who actually deserve it and the dogs who actually are going to benefit from it. You know, where it's like, you can't burn yourself out on caring about a dog with a bite record. Like, I get it. There's so many situations, like the work that we've done with some of the rescues around here locally that are great and really try their best. There's so many dogs that I've seen where it's like, God, that sucks. Like, all of the variables were terrible. That dog truly never had a chance. Like, I get it. But ultimately, if you're going to maintain a long-term career in animal care, you have to be able to separate that and look at it logically and be like, but there's nothing we can do about it now. We have to say goodbye and then be able to help a dog who has a chance. But they burn themselves out, and then they act like idiots and are rude to people, and then they want to blame it on compassion fatigue and everybody else. That is your own personal responsibility.
Yes. And like, it's compassion fatigue is very common in the shelter world. I was in the shelter world for many, many years, and it was definitely the way that I was doing things. But you think, like, you're like, oh, I'm doing such good work. Like, I need to, really
you get like a moral superiority complex with these people sometimes.
And then dogs would go home and get adopted, and they'd come back, and people instantly roll their eyes and be like, that person's so stupid for returning the dog. And it's like, they have a right to return the dog, one. And, like, you're absolutely right. Like, you have to manage your own compassion fatigue. You can't just be like, it's just the job that's doing it to me. It's hardening me. Just like find a way to
go do another job.
Right.
Like, maybe you're not cut out for this then. Like, you have to be able to manage it.
You might not be cut out for it.
But you shouldn't care too much. And that's really hard. And that's growth as, like, me as a trainer, is that I care, but I care an appropriate amount now.
Oh, yeah. And you should never get to the point where you care more about a dog than a person.
Yeah.
Right.
Let alone children.
Which unfortunately, a lot of people are that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, they hold animals and dogs on the same, moral level as humans. And, like, animals deserve to be treated with respect and kindness and love and all of that kind of stuff. But, like, when it comes to a matter of safety, they don't take priority over humans. Yeah. That's just not how it works.
It's a tough industry, like, being in the animal industry. And I remember back in my shelter days, like, just being absolutely exhausted and, like, burnt out all the time from the work that I was doing. But it was also, the workplace was so toxic and everybody was so fucking mean to each other. Like, rescues are notorious. Like, everybody's so catty and mean and nasty, and everybody has opinions. And these people are great to dogs, but they're really shitty to other humans. And every shelter I've worked in has had that exact environment where I just gave up on it. Like, the last shelter I worked at, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they, like, internally, like, eat each other alive.
Yes.
And then they push out all of the people that are good because they don't want to deal with that all the time.
Yep.
And there was, like, so many really good people there, but, like, the mean girls were the mean girls, and it was, like, high school, and they were nasty.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it came to dogs and everybody's opinion on how things should be done with a dog.
Yeah, and that's frustrating because it should be about the greater goal of animal like welfare and rescue and all that kind of stuff should be about being able to prioritize adopting out the dogs that are safe and that are going to contribute to society in a positive way and to the people that adopt them. And then also like just being happy and accepting of like within a certain, you know, a certain degree of whatever keeps these dogs in their homes. Great.
Yep.
like that's
like you can
that's
never
that's
do
the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like I was at a local shelter recently and I heard the adoption process and they're like, we never recommend balance training. And when dogs come back after balance training, they're 10 times worse. And it was just like fear mongering. And they were describing this resource guarding pit bull. And I was like, this seems like a great idea, guys.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like they will make correlations out of thin air in any way that like supports their bias. Like them saying when they come back after balance training, they're worse. No. What happened was you adopted out a dog with such severe behavioral issues that positive only training was going to do shit.
No.
So the owners were like, we want to try to keep this dog. So let's do training that is probably going to give us the best bet. So they go to balance training. And then guess what? You can't fix a bad temperament in a dog. So likely what ended up happening is it didn't get them to the level they needed to be for it to be a safe or a good lifestyle fit for them. So they returned the dog. It wasn't the balance training that caused that. It was the dog in and of itself being the way it was. And the owners were trying to just give it the best shot they possibly could. Yeah. But now the rescue could look at that and be like, oh, Pumpkin was never like this before she left. And then they did this shock collar training and now she's terrible and they returned her.
And she's going to be like this for the rest of her life.
Because no positive only dogs ever come back either.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's just a wild environment.
Yeah.
That's all I can describe it as.
One, in that video that I started out talking about, firstly, in the caption, which I only can imagine since she privated the video, I don't know if the rescue's probably doing a legal thing with them, saying you have to take the video down, you know, whatever, I don't know. But she even put in her caption, she was like, we will never rescue a dog ever again.
Yeah.
She's like, I used to be so pro rescue. And she's like, but after this experience and how traumatic it was and then how we were treated after something so dangerous like that happening in her house, I will never rescue a dog ever again. Yeah. I will never feel comfortable doing it. Yeah. And so it's like, do they realize that? Right. Do they realize that they're just like whittling? I think, I don't know, in the last couple of years, I've noticed at least a pretty big cultural shift as far as like people are really steering away from like the adopt, don't shop mantra and into more of like actually getting a purpose-bred, well-bred dog is kind of nice.
From a responsible breeder.
Yeah, from a responsible breeder is kind of nice and predictable, and I enjoy that.
They just, like, there's some people that act like it is your duty as a human being to rescue only, and if you don't rescue, you're a terrible, godforsaken person that's going to hell. Yeah. And there's people in the rescue community that are like that. So, like, I don't even want to tell people that I bought a dog from a breeder. And it is one of the best dogs I've ever had, temperament-wise. I love my rescues, and I will still continue to rescue. But having this dog is like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we love her so much, and we love her temperament, and she's exactly what I wanted. And I told the breeder that, and she delivered. She gave me exactly what I wanted in a dog.
Yeah. It's just so, especially, like, when you have, for people that have kids in the picture, like, you can't fault them for wanting to. They have every right to have a dog, and they have every right to have a dog that they know is going to be safe around their kids. Obviously, you can never be 100% sure of anything, right? But like,
bred dogs can have a shitty temperament.
Yeah, I mean, there's always outliers and everything. Responsible breeders just try their best, you know. But like, for the most part, you're going to have a much better luck of a good outcome going to like a nice breeder who breeds labs or goldens or even maybe more intense dogs like a German Shepherd or something.
Yeah.
Where the breeder's like, okay, you have kids. This litter is going to be a little more low key. This will be perfect. This puppy specifically, blah, blah, blah. You can meet the parents. You can meet all the lines, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Versus you go to a random shelter and you're like, that bully breed mix.
Right.
We'll take that one home, and then you have a terrible situation on your hands.
Or they're like people that get it from sketchy breeders. And how many times have you heard the story, especially in this area? They're like, we went way out to southern Ohio.
Yep.
We knocked at the barn 3 times, spun around twice, and then the dog appeared in front of us, but they wouldn't let us meet the mom and dad. And there was a bunch of other breeds there too. And you're like,
or they let us see mom, but she was 2 fields away
and she was barking at us the whole time. Yeah. I even had someone once tell me that like the breeder met them at like a Walmart and that's where they got the puppies. And I was like, oh no, this is so bad.
Yeah.
Like when I went to go get Snoop, she literally was like, here's his mom, here's his grandpa, here's his brothers, here's this one. She's like, oh, you want to meet my Sholos too? I'll bring those out. And like,
just I met her at a Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
And she had Pip in her shirt, like Pip was right here, and this little head poked out, and I was like, "That's my girl." But she had Dad with her, and she had siblings with her, and like other people were there too. And I was like,
it was like a little meetup, wasn't it?
Yes.
Of like a lot of her, Well, and it's like we have like she has that Facebook group where all of the people that have gotten puppies from her are all in this group together, which is such a green flag.
Yeah.
Because if you are allowing, like you have nothing to hide if you're like, everyone talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because you're confident in your lines and your temperaments that there's not going to be like, oh wait, your dog is like very dog aggressive, mine is too. You know what I mean? Where you're finding these like weird holes and all this kind of stuff. Like
she said that it was like 1 in 100, and now there's 4 people that have issues.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, that group is my favorite thing. It's so fun.
I always like the dogs that look like Pip. I'm like, who is this dog out of? And I like want to know. And it's oftentimes like a relative of Pip. And
Yeah, and it's so cute because like they'll post like for their birthdays, and then everybody else, like when I'll post like a picture for Snoop on his birthdays, and then all the comments, everyone else from his litter like post their little birthday pictures with their dogs. Like it's the best thing.
That is cool.
But even that, like you have like community, you have support. Like if you like, even like I said with Ruger and the Corso we talked about last time and his people, like because he came from a very like dedicated breeder, like they had their support the whole time. You know what I mean? And like they weren't just like, good luck.
Yep.
Don't call us ever. Like we're not interested. You know, you go get a dog from like Southern Ohio from somebody who doesn't care, and then you're just shit out of luck. You know, you can't call them. They're not going to answer. They're not going to help you with anything. They don't care. They got your money. That's all they wanted. And now the dog is gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Like something Jen said to me, she's like, I will always take my dogs back. I will always, no matter what, under any circumstance, I'll always take my dogs back.
Yeah.
And she'll sue you if you don't. Like it's in the contract. Like if for whatever reason she found out that Snoop ended up somewhere else and she didn't know about it, like I would not be good. But yeah, so like I mean, when you're going for, as much as we've disparaged the rescue world a little bit today, with breeders, like basic red flags versus green flags is like, one, they should have a contract. If they don't have a contract when you're purchasing a dog from them, that's a red flag.
And that's including shelters too. Like you should have a contract in a shelter.
Yeah.
And like, I don't mean to completely shit on rescues. I read a comment not too long ago that was like, you guys just have no compassion. It's like, you have no idea what these people do. And I was like, I was in that world. Like I fully understand that world, and I loved and hated it. And I do my part for dogs. We do our part for dogs, but we don't have to be getting dogs that are rescues.
No, the reason that I don't have compassion fatigue is because I channel my compassion in relevant areas and I don't burn myself out. My compassion is channeled to training the dogs that people adopt and rescue with the knowledge very limited on what these dogs are actually like. And then I help them fit that into their house
Right.
without having to return the dog. So like whether you want to think we do or not, we play a massive role in keeping dogs in homes.
Yes, especially dogs from these local shelters that come to us. So another term I can't stand is that the guilt trip term is the kill shelter.
Oh yeah. Honestly, if it's a no-kill shelter, first of all, they're lying to you.
And they're transferring dogs out to kill them somewhere else.
Yes,
so
they're just not
let's
doing.
Be honest.
Yeah, they're just not doing it on their premises so that their statistics can be clean, but it's still happening.
Yep.
And then on top of that, not every dog should stay alive. Okay, especially in a rescue setting.
No.
Yes.
Like that should not be happening.
Absolutely not. Like there was one rescue that I worked for that like anything they would euthanize the dog and it would be like very easy things. And at the time I was very conflicted and I was like, why? And she's like, I will never adopt a dog out that has put teeth on me. And just because the dog is good with the volunteers and the volunteers have never had an issue, ultimately you want the shelter to take responsibility and not adopt out a dog that has a bite record.
Yep.
Yeah. So we do our part.
Yeah.
Okay. But with breeders and stuff too, like when you're looking for a good one, like you should have, they should do health testing for a general basis. Like you can go to like, CHIC. It's a online database that basically chronicles for whatever breed you're interested in. It says all of the recommended health testing that like should be done. And so you can look at that. And then there's a database that documents all of the health testing where you can look for your breeder's kennel and actually see the results and see all of it like public. So that way it's very open and you can look and be like, okay, so if I want a Chihuahua, they recommend hip, elbows, eye screenings, all that kind of stuff. And then you can go to your breeder and be like, do they do all of that? And if they don't have it on their website, they don't. Okay. And even if they say they do on their website, you need to actually find proof of it. 'Cause a lot of them will say that they do and they don't.
Yeah.
Obviously, the people should be willing to talk to you and answer any questions you have. They should be willing to allow you to connect with other people that have gotten their puppies in the past and not be weird about that. They should generally have some type of health guarantee where like a lot of breeders will have like if there's a genetic health defect that comes up within the first year of the puppy's life, there's usually something that they'll do for you. So like there's stuff like that that's put into place that shows you that they truly care about their dogs, and their actual goal with breeding is to preserve and like further the good parts of that dog breed and not to just like pump them out as quick as possible and make as much money as they possibly can.
Like a good breeder is passionate about the breed and like making sure the breed lives a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's not about making money. Like, and if you're going to your backyard breeder, they're like, I can charge $700 for this blue-eyed pit bull puppy. Like, sweet.
And if they're willing to give you 2 puppies at the same time, don't go there.
Yep.
If they're willing to give you like, if you've
That means
never
they're just not
had,
selling them fast enough.
yeah, exactly, and they don't care
Or
that
they're on
it's-
clearance. They're like, I'll give you that one
Yeah.
for 50% off. And it's like sport. It's like,
Yep. Yes.
you're like, okay. Or they'll guilt trip you and be like, man, this dog's going to be really lonely without its sibling.
Yeah. If they're and if they're like in a rush to get rid of the dogs, that's problematic. Like that you should not be getting a puppy any younger than like 8 weeks, like minimum. So, and you should be able to, depending on the breed and stuff like that, you should be able to interact with like the parents. And sometimes with stud dogs, like they might be like brought in, so you might always not have access to like the male dog, but you should have like, you know, some pretty good like understanding of like, oh, this dog is from a previous litter of them and meet them, like, so you can see kind of what the dog's going to turn into and everything. And if it's a dog breed that's like not a novice dog breed, so like like a working line shepherd or Doberman or Rottie or Corso or whatever, and you have like 0 dog experience and they don't care, or they like don't ask you anything about it. They don't ask like, what are your training plans? Who do you know that has these dogs? Who's mentoring you to help you with this dog? And they don't ask any of that. Don't get their dog.
Yeah.
Because that means that they don't care that you are ill-equipped for that type of dog, which means that they didn't really care how well bred it was. And so it probably doesn't have a great temperament. You will just not be set up for success in those situations. So
they're giving you a dog that's already a problem with problems.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like,
Exactly.
good luck.
Yep.
But isn't he so cute?
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Be careful how you acquire your dogs. It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
That thing is your responsibility for the next 12 to 15 years.
yes.
So
Yeah.
choose wisely.
And if you are going to go with a rescue, that's perfectly acceptable. But again,
I
like
think
we've
that's
talked
great.
about multiple times, like take your time, meet the dog, ask the volunteers what the dog is like, ask them to disclose everything to you. Like, you know, maybe if they'll let you foster to adopt, that's a great option as well.
Yep.
Almost all of my dogs have been my fosters, and that's how I discovered that I really liked them. So sign up for fostering if you want to, you know, explore temperament and explore what kind of dog that you like and what energy levels you like, and, you know, do right by that dog that's in your house.
All right. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways.
Have a blessed day.
Yeah.
You know,
We hope you enjoyed.
enjoy your summer.
Get some good stories.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Let us know.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Peace out.